Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. With me is Pat Fitzmaurice, and we're going to be breaking down the wide receiver ranks right here for Week 5 in the NFL. Pat and I are going to be joined by a wonderful guest, of course, Bill Enright from Sports Illustrated, here to help us look at the rankings. His ranks versus Pat's versus the ECR versus Bill. It's going to be a wild time, so stick around, everybody, for it. And Bill, I'm going to press the guest right at the top here. Kenny Golladay is not traveling. Richie James doesn't look too good. Who, if anyone, will Daniel Jones throw the ball to in London?
I just don't. First of all, I don't even know if it's going to be Daniel Jones under center for the Giants.
That is also fair.
It could be Davis Webb, or it could just be Saquon Barkley running the Wildcat like Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams back for the Dolphins, over a decade ago. So when it comes to the Giants receivers, and I'm a third-generation Giants season ticket holder, it pains me. Kenny Golladay, the worst contract in sports history, right? Because if the Giants want to
Kenny Galladay's perspective,
no, he's laughing straight to the bank. But if the Giants want to pay someone $17 million this year not to catch the football, I'm happy to offer my services. But that's what's happening with him. And Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson are hurt. I would not trust any Giants playmaker. They're not even worth rostering. It's Saquon Barkley and nobody else.
Kadarius Toney, Pat, that's a player you and I thought, oh, man, we can just get this guy on the field. And your face just said it all here, which is you rolled your eyes and it's just frustration, too. I mean, what is it going to take to get this guy on the field? All the opportunity is there. You just can't take advantage of it. It is frustrating.
I said in the offseason, Joey's the new Percy Harvin, like crazy talented, but just can't stay healthy. And not only can't stay healthy, but he and Brian Daboll do not seem to be on the same page. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes there, but clearly they do not see eye to eye about certain things. And by the way, with the Kenny Golladay salary, can we get him to defer that over 25 years so we can have a Kenny Golladay day like with Bobby Bonilla?
I was having a good day and you had to mention the Bobby Bonilla thing to me. Really? I mean, geez, Pat, I thought we were getting along here. Speaking of disagreements, we're going to get to some more disagreements with the ranks. Let's start at the wide receiver position here, going with DK Metcalf, where, Pat, you've got him as wide receiver 19. ECR is right with you, Pat. They love you. Bill is skeptical. He is at wide receiver 28, still starting him, but a lot lower. Let's talk about DK Metcalf, the matchup this week, and what your expectations are.
Well, I'm going to guess maybe Bill's a little bit concerned about the Marshawn Lattimore matchup, which is understandable. I mean, Lattimore is certainly one of the better cornerbacks in the league, but there was a lot of buzz about how well Jeffrey Okudah was playing for the Lions going into last week, and DK Metcalf just took him to school last week. 7 catches, 149 yards, just missed getting into the end zone. Almost a really, really big day for him, but got bumped out at the 1 on one of those long catches. The touchdowns are going to come for DK Metcalf. They're coming. And, Geno Smith, he played 3.5 games with DK Metcalf last year, and DK Metcalf had 4 touchdown catches in those 3.5 games. Like, it's coming. It's not like a Geno Smith problem. Geno's been pretty good, and DK is getting 8.8 targets a game. The points are going to start rolling in. Like, DK is he's a matchup-proof guy. You don't worry about the cornerback matchup with DK. So I think you have to get him in your lineup no matter what.
All right, so obviously, Bill, you're still starting him, but is the Lattimore matchup the thing that's looming for you in this ranking?
No, it's a lot less about Lattimore. Listen, DK Metcalf, love the player, love the talent, love the skill set. It's all about Geno Smith. I love the fact that this guy comes out and chirps to people after he plays a defensive disaster like the Lions or the Broncos. Geno, you didn't write back for 9 years in your career because you had nothing to say. But let's not pretend like we didn't watch you for almost a decade be the laughingstock of NFL quarterbacks. Somehow, I can't, it's actually hurting my brain. Somehow, he's leading the league in completion percentage this year. But all 4 defenses that he played against were 15th or worst. The Saints are 5th best. So for his career, he's 61%. This year, he's at 74%. So that's my knock with DK Metcalf. The other thing about Metcalf, and Pat said it, the touchdowns are coming. I'll be happy when they do. But of the receivers with at least 13 catches, Metcalf is 35th with just 1 tight end. Greg Dortch, who has 2 less catches than DK Metcalf, has the same amount of touchdowns. The Saints They have a bend but don't really break defense. They're number 8 in touchdowns allowed per game, number 3 in red zone scoring. So if DK Metcalf is going to have to get it done, he's going to have to do it from outside the 20s.
That felt very therapeutic for you, Bill. I felt like you had a lot of Geno Smith stuff pent up there. I'm very happy we could provide you a safe space for it all. Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver 26, according to Pat Fitzmaurice this week. According to ECR, 36. According to Bill Enright, 44. So there is a huge cavern here. So let's talk about this ranking here. Brandon Aiyuk, Pat, what do you see that you like so much for this 49er wide receiver this week?
Yeah, I'm out of step here, but look, I am clinging tightly to my priors on Brandon Aiyuk. And from week 9 on last season, he was the wide receiver 13. And, that seems like an arbitrary cutoff point, but it's really not arbitrary because we know he was in the doghouse for Kyle Shanahan for the first half of 2021. When he got out, he produced. And I still like a lot of what I see here. I like that it is a narrow target tree in San Francisco and maybe getting even more narrow because if you go back like the last 8 games of George Kittle, I think he has just over 200 receiving yards. Like he's kind of a non-factor in the passing game these days. So it's basically just Debo, Aiyuk, the occasional Juwan Jennings target or Ray McLeod. Only 23 targets for Aiyuk so far, but there was a monsoon game. There have been 2 49ers blowouts where they could basically just, run the ball and kill the clock for most of the second half. Aiyuk's played a 92% snap share. His route participation is great. I think we have to look ahead and not backward with him. If you look backward, yeah, he should be ranked as a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. But I think his future is as a wide receiver 2. And the big game it's coming.
All right, Bill, that's a pretty good sell job, but it doesn't feel like you're buying it. So talk to me about Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. I think he's a really talented player. If it wasn't for the fact that the 49ers are a predominantly run-first team, they're 27th in pass play percentage. And surprisingly, the Panthers actually have a pretty good pass defense, 6th in opposing yards per pass, 23rd in points allowed to wide receivers this year. Just 2 wide receivers have caught touchdowns all year long against Carolina. The spread here is 6.5 for the Niners on the road. So, Pat, you mentioned it. I do think it's another one of those San Francisco blowout games where they are running the ball a lot in the second half. You did bring up Ray McLeod. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that other than Cooper Kupp, he is the most bankable receiver to bet on. 10 of his last 11 games, Ray McLeod has gone over his receiving yardage prop. 10 of his last 11 games. That you could take to the bank. Brandon Aiyuk in week 5 in your starting lineup, I'm not so sure.
I did not have Ray McLeod on my bingo card today. Did not think we were going to talk about him. The one thing we can talk about, though, is obviously a giveaway we got going on at FantasyPros.com/contest. It's the Jalen Hurts autographed jersey. We are giving it away. And I know what you're asking, Joe. How do I get this Jalen Hurts jersey? Well, it's very easy. You go leave a nice, glorious review of the podcast, wherever you get your pods. Go to Apple Podcasts or wherever it might be, and go drop a 5-star review. How much you enjoy the show, because we know you're listening. We see you, we hear you, or you hear us, something like that. But again, then take that, go to FantasyPros.com/contest. Go sign up, go enter today. And of course, if you follow us on our social media outlets, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, those are all extra entries into the contest too, but make sure you get that big one, which is going to leave a review of the show. Again, this is thanks to our good friends at pristineauction.com. An autographed Jalen Hurts jersey can be yours just for listening to the pod. And I know you're doing that already, so go win yourself something nice. Let's go with another wide receiver here. It's another Seattle guy, believe it or not. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 28, according to Pat. According to ECR, wide receiver 26. Okay, not according to Bill, wide receiver 38. Pat, we're back in Seattle again. Let's talk about the other guy in this wide receiver core.
Yeah, 30 targets and 24 catches the last 3 games. So 10 targets a game, 8 catches a game over that stretch, and the wide receiver 21 for his last 3 games. He's going to avoid Marshawn Lattimore for most of this game and get softer matchups, maybe Bradley Roby for a lot of it. And I guess I feel a little bit better about Geno Smith than Bill does. Yes, Bill makes a good point. The matchups have been very favorable, and Bill's face says it all right now. The Geno Smith bandwagon is a festive place right now. We know that it could careen off the road at any time, but as of now, I'm feeling good enough that I'm still starting Metcalf and Lockett, and feeling pretty decent about it.
All right, Bill, how about you? Is this the guy that you feel, maybe has a little bit more upside than DK, or you're still just sour on everyone in Seattle?
No, maybe not more upside than DK, but certainly more consistency. He's going for his fourth straight game with at least 6 receptions for at least 75 yards. Incredible if you play in PPR. But Pat said it. He has 0 touchdowns. He has 24 catches on the year. There's 10 other wide receivers that also have 24 catches on the year. Tyler Lockett's the only one without a score. He's got to get into the end zone. So if you play in the PPR format, I think he's fine. I have him right outside that wide receiver 3 territory. The Saints have allowed just 2 passing touchdowns to wide receivers all year. One of them was who I think is the second best wide receiver in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson just last week in London. So again, consistent, sure, missing that touchdown upside. I would love for him to see it because I do believe in DK Metcalf. I do believe in Tyler Lockett. But Pat, I do not want to be on that Geno Smith bandwagon with you. No matter how fun it is, I don't want any part of it.
All right. So off of the bandwagon, let's get off the Seattle guys altogether. Let's talk about Chris Godwin instead. Let's talk about guys that Bill likes more than Pat. Wide receiver 19, that's where you've got Chris Godwin. Wide receiver 21, where the ECR is. Pat says not so fast. Wide receiver 31. So let's talk about Godwin, his role in this offense, his health, and what he could do for managers in week 5, Bill.
So if we look what he did last week, his first game back since that, tore his ACL last year, comes back in week 1 against Dallas, injures his hamstring, took 2 weeks off. First game back from that, and he had a little bit of a scare too, but he was able to return. He tied with Mike Evans in 10 targets. We know that Tom Brady's in the news for all the wrong reasons. I think he puts all that stuff aside. Great matchup, cupcake schedule with this Atlanta Falcons secondary. They allow the 6th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, 6 touchdowns to wide receivers. That's the 2nd most. Godwin has destroyed Atlanta throughout his career in his 2 games last year, 15 for 143 in 1 game, and then 5 for 62 and a touchdown. And for whatever reason, when he plays Atlanta in Tampa Bay, he seems to score a touchdown. This would be his 4th straight game in that scenario for Chris Godwin. I'm a big fan of his, so maybe I am a little biased here, but I just think he talent-wise and with what he does in this offense, one of the best wide receivers in the game. And he's shown me that Brady still has faith in him. Those 10 targets to me last week, tied for Mike Evans, that was a big statement out of Brady with Chris Godwin.
Now, Pat, obviously you're still starting Chris Godwin. You've got him as a top 36 guy, but your expectations are lower. So let's understand why that might be.
Yeah. First of all, I want to mention to Bill that they are serving drinks on the Geno Smith bandwagon along with little bags of mixed nuts. So it's a pretty good place to be, Bill. I'm telling you. So maybe Godwin is one of these guys from whom I am waiting for that show me game, Joe. Yes, the 10 targets last week and 83% snap share, very encouraging. Is Chris Godwin fully back? And why do I like watching that game against the Chiefs, like watching Godwin pick himself up off the ground a bunch of times? Like he looked like he was in pain, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like this guy coming back quickly from a major knee injury, had the hamstring issue. There's one of
those times I didn't think he was going to pick himself up, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, the dude looks like he's hurting. I am baking in like at least a small chance of a re-injury here. I just feel like maybe he is not quite himself yet. And like we're seeing maybe 80% of Chris Godwin and not the regular Godwin, because a healthy Godwin is a force of nature, man. I love the guy. I've got him on a lot of dynasty teams. Like I can't say a bad word about Chris Godwin. I think his game works perfectly with Tom Brady. Like I just want to see the big game first. I want to see the old Chris Godwin, making big plays before I boost him up too high in the rankings.
All right, let's see if we see the old Diontae Johnson now that Kenny Pickett is under center. Wide receiver 21, that's where Bill's got him. ECR is right there at 23. Pat is at 33, so he's got him as a wide receiver 3, not a 2. So, Bill, let's talk about Diontae Johnson here and what Kenny Pickett can do for him.
Yeah, so the Bills are 14.5-point favorites in this one, and the over-under is the 4th highest on the board. I'm expecting a lot of garbage time coming for Diontae Johnson this week. He actually does pretty well on the road. 9 straight road games with at least 5 for 50. And what I saw out of Kenny Pickett last week, 13 attempts, someone caught all 13 of those passes. 3 of them happened to be the Jets, but 13 for 13 in terms of completions, he did not throw an incomplete pass. Just 3 of them happened to be interceptions. But in all seriousness, I'm a Kenny Pickett believer. I think Mike Tomlin tries to hold up the offense. Let's see what we get out of this rookie quarterback. And what better game to do that in when you're a 14.5 underdog on the road, away from the home crowd. Throw the man to the Wolves, and let's see if he survives. And I think Diontae Johnson could be a big beneficiary of that.
My bald brother, I am with you. Kenny Pickett, I think, is better than people give him credit for. It's certainly better than Mitchell Trubisky. Even if he struggles in this game, it's time to pull the Band-Aid off and see what you've got with the kid. Pat Fitzmaurice, a little bit more concern here. Is it just because it's the Buffalo Bills? Is it just as simple as that?
It's not. It's really more about what we've seen from Diontae Johnson so far. He's the wide receiver 44. He's averaging 8.8 half-point PPR points a game, 37 targets, but only 5.6 yards per target. I do expect to see more efficiency, better efficiency from Diontae going forward. And we are looking forward, not back here. And I do agree that Pickett is an overall boost to the passing game, but isn't necessarily a boost for Diontae. Just 4 targets last week. I feel like George Pickens is coming on so fast. Like, this guy's a star in the making, and he's going to be a big problem for Diontae. We also know Pat Freiermuth's going to be involved. I want to see Diontae connect with Pickett and have that chemistry. Like, let's see it. Kind of another instance where I need the show me game, but I mean, so far, we're just getting a lot of empty targets for Diontae. We're not getting many big plays. We're not getting touchdowns. It's just sort of empty volume, and it's passable in PPR leagues, half PPR leagues, but it's not what you were hoping for if you drafted him.
Okay, one more guy on the list here. Bill, you've got Romeo Doubs at wide receiver 24. ECR's got him at 32. Pat is even lower at 37, so he's hating on his own guys in the Packers. What is coming here on the show today? Bill, let's talk about Romeo's upside here. We talked about the Giants and their struggles potentially to move the football. Does that mean that there's even going to be more opportunities for Aaron Rodgers in this offense to take some shots and let it all hang out a little bit?
You know, I don't even think you have to take shots against the Giants, because where they fail in the secondary is those short to intermediate passes, screen passes to either wide receivers or running backs, which we've seen Romeo have a lot of success with. 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, top 12 fantasy scorer for the position, 17.5 fantasy points. I love that upward trend. I think Rodgers is starting to trust him a little bit more. 18% total target share on this team. His 6.6 average depth of the target, not very high, right? But again, I think that might benefit him because of what the Giants' weakness is on defense. And I'm telling you, if you're in a league that trades a lot, or if you're in a position where you can try to get him through a trade in your going forward season long outside of week 5, I would go do it, because like you said about George Pickens, I think Romeo is definitely going to be a star for the rest of the season.
Depth of target might have to do with also Aaron Rodgers getting hit as much as he has this year, too. I think he's trying to get rid of the ball a little quickly, a little a la Ben Roethlisberger of years past, perhaps. How about you here, Pat? This is one of your guys, but a little concern. What is it that has you hung up a little bit on Romeo this week in London?
I'm generally pro Dobbs. I would normally be right in line with the ECR. I love that he's playing 96% of the snaps for Green Bay, and it's basically him and Alan Lazard as like the co-number ones in this offense. I don't love the matchup. The Giants have allowed the second fewest points to opposing wide receivers, fantasy points, that is. And I'm worried about how the pace of this game is going to go. I think this game could be over in less than 3 hours. I think there's going to be a lot of running by both teams. And, the Packers are always among the slowest paced teams in the league. Like, Aaron Rodgers always takes that play clock right down to 0. So I don't see this being any sort of track meets. I'd be surprised if Doubs got to double-digit targets in this game. I'm just a little worried the ceiling isn't there.
Okay. All right. So there you have it. Those are the guys, the differences of the rankings. Let's see how they feel about my ranks versus the ECR. We're going to put the guys on the clock here. 30 seconds to argue either side here. I'm going to start with Christian Kirk. I've got him all the way at wide receiver 9. Big bounce back. Let's go. ECR is at 14. Pat Fitzmaurice, what are your feelings about Christian Kirk this week?
Yeah, I'm right on ECR, and Joe, he's the wide receiver 7 on the year, so how can I really argue with you that much? I guess, one concern for me as the Jaguars being a big home favorite against the Texans, do they have to throw all that much?
Okay, fair enough. Bill, what are your thoughts on Christian Kirk this week?
I have him at 16th. And like Pat said, I don't know how much we're going to have to throw. I'm expecting a big game from James Robinson, and this will be Travis Etienne's breakout game that everyone's been waiting for.
Okay, there you have it. Travis Etienne called here by Bill Enright. Well done. Let's hit our listener mailbag and we'll head out of here. Let's go to Frosty K. Corleone. That's right. Frosty K. Corleone is here. And of course, if you want to ask questions like Frosty does, you go to fantasypros.com/chat. You join our Discord for free. And if you're a premium member, you get access to our AMAs, our stages, and of course, you get fun opportunities like this where I pull your questions onto the show. And of course, you get to get in that touchdown call contest too, where we're giving away free stuff, autographed jerseys, helmets, all kinds of fun things, even stuff from our shop. So again, check it out at fantasypros.com/chat. This one's from Frosty Corleone, wants to know, should I move Pittman and Gabe Davis for Chase? My other wide receivers are Mike Will, Sutton, Olave. I got Tyler Lockett, Burks. I've got George Pickens and Michael Gallup. So Pittman and Davis for Chase. Is that a move that you would make, Pat Fitzmaurice?
Yes, I think Frosty K. Corleone should consolidate if he can do that and trade those for clearly the best guy involved in the deal. And by the way, right after Sonny Corleone, like Frosty K. Corleone is the member of the Corleone family I would least want to run into in a dark alley.
I would imagine, right? I mean, someone said the other day you looked like James Caan in the YouTube comments. So, I mean, maybe it's all coming full circle. What do you think, Bill, about consolidating power between these all wide receivers?
I think your Godfather impression is incredible. I don't know how long you've been training for that.
Many years.
It's perfect. Frosty's wide receivers are actually pretty good, right? Mike Williams, Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave, Tyler Lockett. He's got good receivers. He's missing that true stud. This gives him that. By making that move to get Jamar Chase, this gives him that true number 1 dog. I'm in favor of it.
3 for 3. Go get the big dog in Jamar Chase. Also, don't forget to follow Bill Enright on the Twitter machine at Bill Enright. Check out his great work at Sports Illustrated. And go check out fantasypros.com/contest. Make that Jalen Hurts jersey yours. Go drop a 5-star review of the show wherever you get your pods. Do that right now. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fantasy Pros, Instagram, TikTok, and the Twitter machine as well. Again, fantasypros.com/contest. Thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. Go get that Hurts jersey today. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Bill and Pat, I'm Joey P. We will see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.